Number 5. The Watcher House. In June 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus purchased their absolute dream home, a stunning, 6-bedroom, $1.3 million estate at 657 Boulevard in the idyllic, wealthy town of Westfield, New Jersey. But before they could even move in, their dream morphed into a living nightmare. They received a chilling, anonymous letter in the mail from someone calling themselves the Watcher. The letter claimed that the house had been the subject of their family for decades, and that they had been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. The deeply disturbed writer boasted about knowing the names of the Broaddus' 3 young children, referring to them as young blood, and asked if they had found what was hidden in the walls. Terrified, the family immediately contacted the police and eventually hired private investigators and former FBI profilers. Despite conducting a massive neighborhood sweep and launching a high-profile civil lawsuit against the previous owners, the author of the terrifying letters was never found. The Broadduses never moved into the house, and 5 years later, they sold the property at a massive loss, leaving behind a neighborhood permanently scarred by an invisible, obsessive stalker. Number 4. The Disappearance of Maura Murray. The disappearance of 21-year-old nursing student Maura Murray is often cited as the first great mystery of the Internet age. On the afternoon of February 9, 2004, Maura abruptly emailed her professors at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, falsely claiming there was a death in her family, packed her car, and drove north toward the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Around 7:30 p.m., she crashed her Saturn sedan into a snowbank on a dark, winding road in Woodsville, New Hampshire. A passing school bus driver stopped to help, but Maura pleaded with him not to call the police. The driver went home and called authorities anyway. When police arrived a mere 10 minutes later, Maura's car was locked, and she was completely gone. She left behind all her belongings, including her cell phone and a box of cheap wine that had spilled in the crash. In the weeks prior to her disappearance, Maura had been exhibiting highly erratic behavior, including credit card fraud, a previous car accident, and an unexplained emotional breakdown at work. Extensive searches of the dense, freezing woods surrounding the crash site turned up absolutely nothing. Was she picked up by an opportunistic serial killer? Did she perish in the harsh wilderness? Or did she successfully orchestrate her own disappearance to start a new life? 2 decades later, the fate of Maura Murray remains a haunting enigma. Number 3. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum Heist. In the early hours of March 18, 1990, the city of Boston became the scene of the largest unsolved art heist in world history. While the city was recovering from raucous St. Patrick's Day celebrations, 2 men dressed as Boston police officers arrived at the side door of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. They tricked the young, inexperienced security guards into letting them inside, claiming they were responding to a disturbance call. Once inside, they swiftly overpowered and handcuffed the guards, duct taping them to pipes in the basement. Over the next 81 minutes, the thieves leisurely roamed the museum, cutting irreplaceable masterpieces directly out of their frames. They stole 13 pieces of art, including a priceless Vermeer, 3 Rembrandts, and a Degas, with an estimated total value of over $500 million. Despite a massive international FBI investigation and the offer of a historic $10 million reward, not a single piece of the stolen art has ever been recovered. Investigators have strongly suspected the involvement of the Boston Mafia, but many of the key suspects were murdered or died taking their secrets to the grave. Today, the museum continues to display the empty frames in their original places, a haunting reminder of a historic cultural loss that remains unsolved. Number 2. The Jameson Family Mystery. The Jameson family mystery is one of the strangest and most unsettling unsolved cases in modern American history. In October 2009, 44-year-old Bobby Jameson, his 40-year-old wife Sherry Lynn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison vanished while looking to purchase a 40-acre plot of land in the isolated Sans Bois Mountains of Oklahoma. 8 days later, hunters found their locked pickup truck abandoned on a dirt road. Inside, police discovered their IDs, their wallets, $32,000 in cash, and their severely malnourished dog, who had miraculously survived inside the hot truck. Surveillance footage from the family's home security camera taken the day they left showed Bobby and Sherry Lynn walking in a trance-like state, loading the truck without speaking to each other. The investigation uncovered bizarre and deeply troubling details. The family was involved in a bitter lawsuit. Sherry Lynn had recently purchased a .22 caliber pistol, and they strongly believed their house was possessed by violent ghosts. For long years later, the skeletal remains of all three family members were discovered side by side, face down in the dirt, less than 3 miles from where their truck was found. The bodies were too heavily decomposed to determine a cause of death. Was it a murder-suicide, a drug deal gone wrong, or something much more sinister? The tragic fate of the Jamisons remains entirely unknown. Number 1. The Yuba County Five. Often referred to as the American Dyatlov Pass, the case of the Yuba County Five involves the terrifying and inexplicable deaths of 5 young men from Yuba City, California. On February 24, 1978, the group of close friends, all of whom had mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions, drove to Chico, California, to watch a college basketball game. They left the game around 10 p.m. and were expected home shortly after, but they never arrived. Days later, their car was found abandoned on an impassable, snow-covered dirt road in the Plumas National Forest, over 70 miles in the wrong direction from their homes. The car was in perfect working condition, had plenty of gas, and could have easily been pushed out of the snow. So why did they abandon it? Months later, after the snow thawed, investigators made a series of gruesome discoveries. 4 of the men's skeletal remains were found scattered throughout the dense, mountainous wilderness. The body of the 5th man, Ted Wyer, was discovered inside a Forest Service trailer nearly 20 miles from the abandoned car. He had starved to death, losing nearly half his body weight, despite being surrounded by rations and matches he never used. The ultimate fate of the final man, Gary Mathias,